get started. Thank you all again for coming. I'll keep my eye on the front door here as well. My name is Geoff O'Keefe. I'm the Executive Director of Zen Peacemakers, and I heartily welcome you and thank you for your attendance and attention. This is another, I don't want to say installment, but another session of our Peacemaker Circle format. And just a quick story. I started almost 6 years ago, and my predecessor said, "Now you're going to need to do a monthly members meeting." And I said, "Well, what do we do in a monthly members meeting?" And he said, "Well, to update people on what's going on and so forth." And I did it once, and I wanted to pull my fingernails out with pliers. It was so boring. I said, "I'm never doing that again." So, but let's do this instead. Let's get interesting people, unlike me, to come be guests and talk about what they're doing, kind of around the circle of Zen Peacemaker interest. And so, over the last 5+ years, we've had hundreds of guests um, focused on all kinds of things: end of life, war and peace, conflict, racism, pure dharma, the arts, homelessness, refugees, all kinds of things. Um, this is by way of encouraging you. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, please go to the website and do that. It's free. We don't do anything with the mailing list, so you won't hear from other people. But it comes out every week, and it lets you know what we're doing, and you get advance notice of these events. Um, I'd also ask, we do all this for free, and I am utterly committed to continuing to do that. But we can use your support too. So if you're in a position and so inclined, and it's in your heart to go to the website and donate, I will thank you. Well, I'll thank you either way, just for being here. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. Shodo and I have been chatting here, and it's been fun. We met just earlier this year, I think, and we've talked a couple of times. And I considered just maybe canceling this and having it be, so Shodo and I could just continue to talk among ourselves because it was so much fun. Um, and we have it's funny in this milieu, we have all of these intersecting points, 1 degree of separation points, people we know, places we've been, and things like that. So it's really delightful. Anyway, Shoto's well known to a lot of people. Shoto's on the road, seemingly continually, in Georgia now, I believe, and but has found time to be with us today. So uh, she's got a new book out, Open Reality: Meeting the Polycrisis Together with All Beings. And this is what she will talk about together. And I will shamelessly plug her book. Please, I imagine it's on Amazon, but pick it up if you can. So with that, I will mic myself and take my talking stick and pass it over. Shoto, thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated, and I look forward to this.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Let me say about the book, it's true that Amazon has it. It's also true that you can walk into your local bookstore and ask them to get it. And it's also true that you can walk into your local library, or you can go online at your local library and ask them to get it. And this helps me a lot, not just because I dislike Amazon, but because I would like the book to be in more places and seen by many people. And I'm a lover of libraries in particular. So, and all kind of, I have a web page. So I have my big web page, but the book web page is shodospring.com. So, and it says all kinds of stuff about the book, including how to ask me to come and give a talk and some recordings and so forth. So, I think I'll start about how this book came to be. I've been practicing Zen for a little over 40 years now. And it's sort of like it's become the lens through which I see everything. Okay, I'm going to start with Zen with these famous words from the Genjo Koan. Now, how many people are not familiar with the Zen stuff? Because I'll adjust what I say. Just do this. Okay, so most of you are. So there's this phrase: to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be verified by all things. And then there's some more of it. That's about half of it. But studying the self and being verified, being made real by all things is the thing that this book is about. It's not a book written for Buddhists, and so it doesn't use that language. But when I talk to Buddhists, or when I talk to Buddhist groups anyway, I like to refer to the teachings. So this word, so studying, the character that's translated as study is the picture. It has bird wings in it, and the image is meant to describe baby birds learning to fly. So the mother teaches the bird to fly. And it's a very intimate relationship, and it's also an essential part of becoming yourself, becoming real. And so the studying the Buddha way is sort of how we become real. Oh, is that a hand, Max? No, that's my cursor. Okay. So when we look up, so there's being verified by all things, being actualized, being enlightened, being confirmed, being experienced, being authenticated, perceiving oneself as all things, being lived by all beings, which was my original favorite. So all beings bring us into being, and they do so by witnessing us or by seeing us. And I say sometimes, we are actually a word spoken by all the other beings in the universe, and we speak them. So we all create each other as we go through life. So, and that's what I want to say. That is like, that's my teaching. That's my formulation of the teachings that we have in Zen. And I won't dare to say in Buddhism in general, but they seem the same to me. So when the title of the book is Open Reality, and it refers to that quality of existence. It's not permanent. It's constantly changing. It's open. A great deal of suffering is the result of not understanding that reality is open. One kind of suffering is thinking that I can be annihilated, and you can only be annihilated if you had a permanent existence. And so being impermanent leaves us free, and it leaves us flexible, and it actually leaves us with the quality of life. We live in a civilization that is kind of not in favor of this quality of life. It keeps trying to be secure, and it keeps trying to fix things or make things secure. And secure is sort of the opposite of what should I say? I could say the enlightened way of life, but I can't claim to know anything about that. But a live way of life, a present way of life. And so I'm beginning with the assertion that the nature of reality is not fixed. As in the Four Seals of Buddhism, no permanent self, impermanence in general, suffering, nirvana. And nirvana just means the blowing out of suffering. And then the way you come to reality determines whether you're living with suffering or nirvana. Okay. So then I wrote the subtitle, Meeting the Polycrisis Together with All Beings. So together with all beings might be familiar. It's a phrase we use a lot in Zen liturgy. And the thing that matters to me is that we're not alone. Humans, well, civilized humans in modern American civilization, and how far around the world that has gone, because I haven't studied it well enough, but we're trying to spread that we're alone. We're the only ones here. We're the pinnacle of evolution, and there's never going to be anybody smarter or better than us, and there's never going to be a better way to live than the way we're living right now. And the result of this idea is that when things go wrong, we just do them more. So right now, we have a little problem with climate change. And the response to that is to generate more energy. So in addition to mining fossil fuels from under the ground and piping them long distances, now we're building solar panels, which involve toxic chemicals mined in the Congo and poisoning the children who are mining them, and digging up lithium in order to have batteries so that we can have power 24/7. And having done that, and I mean, I personally know people who have spent years of their lives bringing the problem of lithium into the public view. And so having done that, so now we have plenty of energy, so let's use it some more. So let's have AI, and let's have data centers, and let's have self-driving cars, because there are no limits. So I have a chapter in the book about limits. So I grew up in the 1950s, and in the 50s, I mean, that was when fossil fuels were a boom. We would go for a drive in the country just because we could. And yet, there were also places on the world map that had fuzzy lines because we couldn't see them. And a 4-hour drive was a really long drive. I mean, the way people lived in the 50s, the way middle-class Americans lived in the 50s was really different from the way middle-class Americans live now. And so the gap between rich and poor has just blown up incredibly. So I'm speaking into a culture that has a certain kind of delusion. So the three poisons, greed, anger, or greed, hate, greed, aversion, and delusion. And the big delusion is that we have a permanent existence. And then there are other delusions that result from that, like we have rights. We have the right to do this mining. We have the right to deport all the immigrants. We have the right to destroy everything that's not us. And some people are horrified about this. And as it's become more and more visible, more and more people are horrified. And so I'm celebrating that, and you might be too. But the point of the book was to offer a different sense of who we are and of what life is. So I'm looking for the quote by Ivan Illich, and I always move my bookmarks. So here it is. But so there was this question, what am I going to do about this? You know, I'm here in this world. I'm not here in a different world. I'm here with this body, which is a woman, with some amounts of privilege and some amounts of not, but mostly pretty much privilege. And what am I going to do with that? How am I going to address the problem? Oh, polycrisis, meeting the polycrisis. So the practice in Zen is to meet whatever is happening and to find an appropriate response. That's our practice, appropriate response. So I'm saying first, the appropriate response is to meet this situation together with all beings, all our relatives. And I specifically consider all beings to include all humans, all animals, all insects, all plants, soils, microbes, water, stars, sky, mountains, rocks, oceans. It's like, I don't think there's any exception to all beings. So when you say all sentient beings, so I don't know, I can't speak to who is sentient and who is not, but I think of them as who, not it. And this is part of the shape of my practice. I sit zazen and I need it. So I'm looking at the situation, and I started writing this book 6 years ago, and I was looking at climate change. And my thought about climate change was, well, if you take Joanna Macy's 3 paths, there's the path of putting your body in the way of the thing that's a problem. And so, you know, people are protesting, people are locking themselves. Used to be they locked themselves to missile sites, now they lock themselves to pipelines, whatever. They take their bodies and they say, no, you're not doing this here. And they get arrested or they get beat up. 2 people who were at Standing Rock had permanent injuries, and some people were in prison for a long time. So that's one path, and it's the most interesting and dramatic. The second one that she defines is building the new society. So I live in an area, and I have lots of online people who are literally doing that. I live in an area of small farmers, permaculture farmers, organic farmers. And so people are growing food. And I know people who are trying to scale that up. Rehi Haslet Marroquin, who came from Guatemala, having raised chickens and other farming things since he was a kid. And now he's teaching people, especially in Minnesota and around the Midwest, but also around the world, teaching people how to raise chickens in a way that's harmonious, in a way that benefits the land. And it's true that they eat the chickens. You can raise egg chickens the same way, but the money seems to be in killing them. So I can't say much about that. But the way that chickens are raised in the United States involves little boxes, and they cut off their tail beaks so they won't peck at each other because they never get to move. And so we're transitioning to an ecosystem in which the chickens are running around outside, scratching up worms from the dirt and so forth. Okay, let's try not to get distracted here. So the point is that building the new society includes food. It includes what sometimes people call prepping, knowing how to store things and can things, knowing how to heat your house without fossil fuels. And I'm sort of working on this stuff in my own life. It's a full-time job if you do it full-time, so I'm not doing that. And her third branch is spirituality. And that's the one where I feel like I belong. But I also notice that whenever there's a powerful action, for instance, at Standing Rock, for instance, in northern Minnesota at Line 3, led by Indigenous people, they're always doing at least 2 of these. They're planting corn in the path of the pipeline. They're building a sweat lodge so that the forces have to take it down. Okay, so a person can't do everything at once. I've met a few people who seem to. But I'm going back to Ivan Illich, and he said, well, so it's like, it's not that I worship him, it's that he says some things I think are really great. Neither revolution nor reformation can ultimately change a society. Rather, you must tell a new powerful tale, one so persuasive that it sweeps away the old myths and becomes a preferred story. One so inclusive that it gathers all the bits of our past and our present into a coherent whole. One that even shines some light into the future so that we can take the next step. If you want to change a society, you have to tell an alternative story. So I started writing, and I started writing with a particular concept, which is that if people would get together and ask for help from the other beings, the other conscious, empowered beings, if we would stop thinking that we're the only ones here and ask for help from the other ones who have been here longer, something might shift. And in order to do that, we have to shift. We have to stop being the colonizers and start being members of the family. So when I was studying in the book, I did a fair amount of reading of Indigenous people and their statements. And then I looked into history, including European history. And what I find constantly is that the way we're living with humans at the top of the heap is definitely not the only way to live. And the other ways are mostly better. You might have heard that often when white people were kidnapped by North American indigenous tribes, that then they didn't want to go back afterwards. But that actually, I know one example of a Native person who went for the money. But usually they say, Native people, they never want to do that. They want to keep living the way they're living. But they're prevented, their foraging grounds and their hunting grounds are destroyed by our diseases and our whatever. So what in the book, we have a proposal, an attempt to rewrite our history and our definition of human nature. In part 2, I particularly worked on that. And what I worked on was first adjusting the definition of what we call primitive peoples and redefining the way they lived based on new understandings. There's a book by Graeber and Wengro. There's a book by Patel and Moore. And there's a lot of writing happening about this, just like there's a lot of writing by scientists redefining, for instance, the fact that trees and forests are conscious beings and they help each other, they defend each other. I mean, there is a whole living community that we used to not know about. So, and usually people don't know things unless they're actually in the sciences. And then it comes out into the public view, and then we start learning it. Okay. So the way people have lived in the past, I have a bunch of stories about that. But the one I like to mention is about what's called a megasite. It's in modern Ukraine. And the thing about this megasite is that it was not called a city because it did not have palaces, it did not have walls, it did not have any evidence of a military. What it did have was a lot of houses that you would call middle-class houses, about the same size, all of them comfortable. And it had great gathering places. And you could tell that the people who lived there probably got together, and whether they got together for rituals or whether they got together to make decisions together, it's not totally clear. But no kings. And this went on for quite some time. There's evidence that people in the past, I think it was the Mayans, there are cities in probably South America that were just vacated. And they used to not understand what happened here. Did they have a plague? And eventually they figured out that what happened was people went, this is not a good way to live. And they went back to the villages. They intentionally and consciously chose to do what would be called more primitive, more connected with the earth. And we live in a society that has refused to do that. And we live in a society that mines the whole rest of the world to get the materials and the energy to continue living the way we live now. So I did some of that. I did some stories about how people actually behave and some debunking. So I just quoted some stories. So there is Rebecca Solnit's A Paradise Built in Hell, which talks about how people behave in disasters. There is Rutger Bregman, who wrote a book, I think it's called Humankind. He's written several books, but he took all the bad stories about human nature and he investigated them. Turns out that people do help each other in emergencies. It turns out that if there's a group of people, they cooperate and help each other. And the situations where people like get helpless or let somebody else do it, they are all very particular, and they involve, for one thing, lack of communication. I do know that if you're walking in eastern Montana, every car that goes by will stop and make sure you're okay. So it's like, but that of course supports the, oh, if there's only one there. But I can't tell you how many people I've been helped by, and many of them strangers. So recognizing that people actually help each other, even under the din of active propaganda telling us to be selfish and telling us that greed is good and all that stuff, which we've been subject to for about the last 100 years. And I write more about that, but I'll just say, even with that, people help each other. And even people who have beliefs, like you call right-wing beliefs, they usually will help. You know, if when confronted with an actual human being, they will help. And the number of people who are helping dogs and cats is pretty innumerable. So redefining who humans are and recognizing that our basic capacity includes cooperation, compassion, communication, all of those things, is important when we live in a society when we're constantly being told to consider somebody else as other. So I did some more of that. And then at the end, I had the hardest part, which was, well, so what do we do? How do we get from here to there? It's not like we can go back. It's like we can't be hunter-gatherers again. If we wanted to, there's been too much damage and there are too many people. Hunter-gatherers have to limit their populations, and they do it. And they also have a different kind of expectations than we have. So, oh, come on. So in sections 3 and 4, I said, okay, so what can we do? And so the first part that I'm proposing and what the book is about is changing our story so that things seem possible again, so that we recognize and not just other humans, but other beings. And then I talk about changing the structure of reality. Now, this is an interesting thing. I come from the school that says Zazen is good for nothing. And my favorite response to that was, yes, but what's the nothing that it's good for? And I never asked that. I never asked that. I went, oh, good for nothing. Well, yeah, but it has these fringe benefits, like you get calmer and stuff, or you become more yourself. But it's like, oh, what's the nothing that it's good for? I really like that. So I wrote that meditation and ritual change the structure of reality. Now, later in the chapter, I talk about Zazen itself, but I use the word meditation because I'm not writing to a specifically Buddhist audience. And also 2/3 of the Buddhists use the word meditation. So I'm proposing, this goes back to my time in physics when we knew or experienced matter as concentrated energy. And then some people are saying matter is concentrated information. I think matter is concentrated consciousness. And I think I'm at least not contradicting the Buddhist teachings. But here we go. Okay, so what difference does that make? There are rules that say only the mundane exists and there is no sacred. Those are human rules and meditation changes them. So that's the important thing. I've been through the process, well, particularly, well, there were several times, but I still remember the first one, which was a 7-day sesshin, like in my 3rd year of practice. And I just went, okay, I'm going to do this. And what happened was that things came to pieces. The ideas that I had, I could see that they were ridiculous. And I could see that there was an open quality to life. And I became really excited about learning that. It's like it was so enticing that I let go of what I had thought I knew. And that was in 1986, and that was the beginning of my real practice. So it's not quite 40 years. But that was when I became one of those crazy Zen people who goes to every sesshin and shows up at the Zendo every morning. So there are rules that say only the mundane exists and there is no sacred. Those are human rules and meditation changes them. The rules that say you are alone or the rules that say you are supreme. It changes both of these, the miserable and the arrogant versions of isolation. Meditation removes those rules. It creates an opening in which everything is open and flexible. Things are allowed to be as they are. Things create each other. In meditation, it's possible to receive the creation of all the other beings of the universe, not just the devas, but the rocks and waters too. It's possible to send out creation into them, to recognize the flow of mutual creation, sometimes called interdependence. And then I talk about ritual, and then I talk about other people's rituals. And then I talk about Zazen and why we use that word. So the word Zen comes from the word Chan, which comes from the word jhana. And the jhanas are like states of consciousness. And if I remember right, there are 8 of them. And, well, presumably they're a lot of fun. I've seen a few of them. But mostly there's that first one where you're kind of trying to let go of your thoughts a lot. The others, the later ones are a little more fun. But there was, oh no, I have to say this. So my teacher is Shohaku Okamura, who has done lots of commentaries and is well known in a certain world. He said, if you're sitting zazen to get enlightened, you're still doing business. And that's why they say zazen is good for nothing. I don't want to be doing business. I don't want to be trading X number of hours on the cushion for some anticipated change, sometimes called enlightenment. Even just tranquility, you know, it's like, I'm not in business. Zazen is play. There was a text, so Tejo Munich, who teaches in North Carolina, and she has a way of studying deeply, of really getting into a text. And so she found this thing that said the monks were disporting themselves in Zazen. And she thought, that's got to be a mistake. Well, she looked up disport, which is an old-fashioned word, and it means play. So she thought this is a mistake. And she looked up the characters, because that's what you do if you wonder. That word was composed of 2 characters, and each character meant play. So you sit on the cushion, not moving, and that's play. Oh, disport, enjoy oneself unrestrainedly, frolic, divert, or amuse oneself. Play in a carefree way, amuse yourself in a lighthearted fashion. Well, not moving your body. So the quality of play is the quality that can change us, that can open up the world. And so we are not doomed anymore. We are not imprisoned by the society, which, I mean, maybe we're one of the targets, and maybe we're one of the people who can get by being quiet, by being the good Germans under the Nazis. I mean, there were people who did okay if they could tolerate what was being done to other people. So this quality of play and letting things be the way they are. So we have this real strong idea, it goes back to Descartes, probably farther, that I exist. And if I exist, I can be destroyed. And so I have to defend myself. And there you go. Suffering, misery, stress. So sitting zazen is about letting it be so, giving up the fight for control and permanence. When we lose that fight, we can be alive. And then Dogen says, when we sit silently in samadhi, we become one with the interdependent co-creation. We're throwing our open and luminous stillness into the creation of everything. Now, I'm proposing that this has an effect on the way the world works. And it's not, I mean, there are Buddhists who chant things in order to get health, job, money, and stuff, or world peace. But from my understanding, the effect of just sitting quietly is not that's not what it's about. What it's about. So I'd have these conversations with my teacher, and he said that thing about still doing business, trying to get enlightened. I did for a long time really want to be enlightened. And then I said, when I sit zazen, I feel more alive. And he said, that's okay. We didn't finish that conversation, but it's like, oh yeah, being more alive. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to read just a little bit of things. For millennia, people lived lives immersed in nature and the sacred. This was true in times of gathering and hunting, nomadic pastoralists, and small farmers. There's a power in that connection. And if you live near a forest or if you garden, you've experienced this power. Just as deep meditation changes you, and thus also your community, communal joy and ritual transform a people. The community that dedicates its energy to the sacred is a community with the power of life. We can find our way back and forward. We can connect again with the earth and her spirits, and we can reach both the depth and the power held there. I propose to you that what worked for thousands of years could work again, not in some magical way, but as the power of life. Just like a healthy immune system defeats infection. And what if we start acting like they did, like the ancestors did? Recognize the earth as our home, recognize all beings as our family, treat them well, work for their well-being, and partner with them in the common cause of the well-being of the whole biosystem. Make offerings and prayers, settle into the stillness of deep meditation, stop interfering with things as they are, place ourselves in the hands of all beings. So that's my proposal, is that we create communities that live in the hands of all beings. Daniel Quinn would say in the hands of the gods. And that's pretty appropriate because you can feel when you say gods, you can feel power, and it's not one, it's like, oh, okay, everybody is magical, powerful, conscious, intentional, and we're in their hands. So I used to, and I will again, before I started writing the book, I spent more time outside and more time talking to natural beings. And if I traveled somewhere, I would try to find the local sacred places and the local beings. So I went to a conference in Hong Kong, and this is particularly exceptional because I'm opposed to airplanes. But I went to this conference, and at the end of the conference, three women took a walk up what's known as, the Peak. It's known as the Peak. And you have to go at 6 a.m. because it'll be too hot otherwise. And we went up and visited a carving of Amitabha Buddha, which was in the cement, and it was very ancient. The others went down. I stayed. I wandered around the top there. And on my way back, I found Amitabha again. But I also found a carving that showed a dragon and a phoenix. I don't know, 10, 20 feet wide in the cement on the same path, just like a little over from Amitabha. And I did take pictures and I did hang out there for a while. And at the time, I was in the custom of asking some questions when I encountered a being that felt like a magical being. So my questions were, it's funny, I don't remember them all. One of those questions was, will you help me? And everybody always says, yes, sure, we'll help you. These guys, the dragon and the phoenix, said, no, you're nothing. You're just a speck. And I went home and I got shingles for the first time in my life. And I was like out of commission for 3 weeks. And it seems important to me. It's like, oh, right, I'm just a speck. I'm nothing. I'm a leaf floating on the wind. And I think they also said, we've got this. We don't need you. I've been working with that because, like, to go on this book trip, I had to back out of the local organizing I was doing. We were doing No Kings protests and stuff. And I also had to walk away from organizing against data centers. And it has been so I've got this sense of myself, and I think it's important that I should do the thing that I think I should do. And then I should do more things, because if I don't do it, it won't happen. And so I'm so delighted to be proved wrong. I've been delighted that people like the book, but I'm also delighted that back home, oh my gosh, the noise about data centers is huge. And they are not being allowed to come in where they're not wanted. And that's happening increasingly. It's just like the communities organizing to stop ICE from raiding people, kidnapping them and beating them up. There's this change happening. Okay. I'm going to say one more thing, because this is just, most of what I say isn't in the book. It's like what's come to me as I think and talk about it. So I was thinking about Saul Alinsky. I was once a community organizer, and he said the best organizer is the enemy. Well, we have a big organizer right now, and people are organizing. And people are also praying, people are doing ceremonies, people are asking for help all over the place, and people are also acting. And so it's like every day I'm a little more hopeful. But hope does not mean thinking that somebody else is going to fix it. Hope means, oh yeah, it's open. We create reality and reality creates us. And we can participate in that. We can't sit on the sidelines. But there are results when we act. And so that's the tangible material part of what I'm writing about. So what I wrote about, I mean, I've got stories in there. I've got stories from me and from other people. But I think I've talked a really long time. So let me stop and find out whether there are questions or comments.
And Shodo, we've got a tidy enough group. I can see everybody. So if you want to use your real hand, you can do that. Or if you want to use your electronic hand that's down under React, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And so will you call on people?
Meryl, go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, Shodo. that was just great. And I have to say, you got me at the start with your teaching that
Mm,
being made real by all things. And I'm not sure I ever heard it put so simply. And yet, of course, that's exactly it. But what resonated with me, I think maybe it resonated so strongly this time because I've been thinking about uh, inauthenticity.
mm,
In the 60s, uh, authenticity was the deepest message we had. We had a lot of stupid messages, but we had our deepest message, which was really a spiritual message, was, you know, uh, the inauthenticity of the machine. And as, adolescents, we were very aware of our identity, and uh, we just felt complete aversion to what was being passed on to us from the 50s.
mhm,
And so I'm thinking about what you just said, as a kind of a bridge. Uh, you know, I am myself working a lot with trying to find the language that makes environmental issues uh, less detached and also not too soupy, not too sentimental. There's been a big reaction within the world of writers, to sentimentalizing nature. Uh, and and I'm thinking at the same time about the desperate situation of young men in the United States and actually worldwide, everywhere, I think, in the modern world, and the crazy things they are doing in response to feeling inauthentic. And it seems to me, that is really, I mean, I'm very concerned about, especially about young men. Uh, but that seems to me the territory to work, Uh, I mean, taking Dogen, who can be, I mean, the Genjo Koan's not so tough, but just to get the notion of reading something like that across, you know, takes some work, right? It takes language, it takes finding communication. And so anyway, that was very, very helpful. And I'm going to think about that. And also, thank you for solving the problem of what Zazen is good for.
Oh,
That has been
oh,
bothering me for almost 40 years too. So thanks.
oh, yeah, right. I used to, what is it? What am I supposed to be doing here either? Part of the problem was that I was reading texts from different traditions and they have different instructions.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So it helped once I learned that there were different traditions. It helped a lot. But yeah, thank you for that. Oh, where are you?
I,
Geographic.
I'm in Tucson, and I took just a little umbrage with you talking about forests and ecstatic delight. We have a gorgeous Sonoran Desert here, which is a fantastic place to relate to the natural world and
It
all.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for saying that. When I walked through eastern Montana, I was amazed because I was always, well, it's like, so I grew up in Ohio and it's like the woods, or the lake or the meadows or whatever. But well, there are two times. One is when I lived in the Arctic and when I missed the trees, and then I came back and the trees got in the way of the sky. And the other time is when I walked through eastern Montana. We were doing a pipeline walk. I could not believe how beautiful it was. It's like, oh my gosh. Because, of course, you have to slow down. If you drive through it, you could easily be bored. I'm not bored anymore. But when you walk slowly and you see grasses and dandelions, or I don't remember the flowers, what they were anymore, but there's all this little stuff and it's right in front of you. And there's this huge sky. So, yeah, I haven't been to the Sonoran Desert unless I drove through it when I was 12. You
Oh,
know?
no, it's not drive-through country. No, no,
Right. Yeah.
we don't
You need
allow
to be
that.
in it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll shut up because I know
Okay.
there's other people have better things to say.
Oh, that was great. But other people will probably have other things. So thank you.
Please, folks, go ahead and step forward. We'd love to hear from you.
That might be okay, but good. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for this. Wow. Um, I love everything that you said, and specifically this focus on Indigenous lifeways and the way that our ancestors lived in better relation with the earth is something that really speaks to me. And I've been following the work of Dr. Lila June Johnston.
Yeah.
She is just amazing. She's an Indigenous researcher who's documented so many of the food systems of Indigenous people from across the world. Yeah, and I think that's just so important that we really tap into our deeper lineages before colonization culture really took off and has created the modern humans that it has. Because there's so many ways that we can live in harmony with this planet. And it inspires me to think about the ancient chestnut groves that the Shawnee managed with fire. And she has evidence of sites in Norway, which is some of my ancestors, who also raised oak trees and chestnuts and
Oh.
lived off of the land in such beautiful ways. And just, yeah, thank you for your work, for spreading this
Yeah.
information. And I pray that we do redefine ourselves and tap into that history. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Lila June is wonderful. I used to read her things beginning at Standing Rock. She was very young. And then she did all these things, including that research. And now she's just out there as one of our leaders. And that's a thing that's happened. We have a question there. Okay. Finish my sentence. Yeah. It's like the people, so Standing Rock, we kind of lost, but we won. And the way that we won, it's like that was a battle, and they did build the pipeline, and of course it leaked, and they beat a lot of people up. But the environmental movement since then, as far as I can tell, has been about listening to the Indigenous voices. And I know that in Minnesota, it's like it's always multicultural, and our locals or natives or whatever term you want, the people who are here first are the people with the most credibility. And this just gives me great encouragement. Let's see. So there was a question in the chat. Where did this go? Can you share your process for connecting to the vast non-physical beings available who support each of us? Yeah. So sometimes I have retreats in which I teach this, but I'll talk about what I try to do myself because that's where it starts, and I need to keep renewing it because I keep forgetting. So, so the first time it happened, well, no, even before that, never mind. So there was a time when I was new at the land where I live, when I would set aside 2 hours every week to go spend time with a piece of land. And I chose a certain area because I had 17 acres. And so I had to choose, and I would go out there at the same time every week, and I would mentally ask, what do you want me to do? Now, I'm thinking didn't I make an offering? I don't think I did. I think making an offering is a really important thing. And there are different ways to make offerings. There's one, and you know, there's you can read lots of ways to do it. But I'm thinking of the people who say, well, it has to be something you made with your hands. So you can't bring tobacco. Tobacco would be logical. Incense would be, you know, based on tradition. But they make little beads with, you know, with a knife, and then they offer these little beads because that's human energy that they're offering. Sometimes I make an offering of a song. Sometimes I bring a bit of food, or sometimes I offer tobacco, or sometimes I put on special clothes, which is turning myself into an offering. So you start by offering, and making an offering makes you receptive. Did I mention singing? Anyway. And then there's this question, oh, how can I hear? And what I would do, sometimes I would sit zazen for a while, but I would be present with wherever my attention was. Like, there's a place I call the central altar, which is a bluff face with a creek below it. And I will go there and ask, you know, what should I do? And then sometimes I will make a request. I remember requesting that they, it's like there's a sort of a ridge and it goes up north. So I don't know if it goes to the place where the pipeline battle was, but I asked them to intervene anyway. Well, I couldn't tell you if they intervened or not. Usually don't know. You know, occasionally you see something that looks like a result. So here it is, and it's all like, well, did I make that up? You don't know if you made it up, but you gradually get better at getting a feeling. So if I'm saying, okay, what shall I do to take care of this piece of land, which is what we do if we do a retreat workshop kind of thing. And then if we have a few people, we each share what we've experienced or what we're thinking, and then we come to some kind of agreement, and then we do the thing. And then we say thank you and goodbye. So just how's that for responding to the question?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Appreciate
it. Thanks. Okay, let me see. Kathleen?
Yes, hi Shodo. Thank you for your talk. I'm pondering on something inconvenient for me, at least, that you mentioned in a short side remark, and that is limiting the population.
Mm-hmm.
This is something special because I think that's maybe one of the most obvious phenomena that shows that we as a human species are behaving unrespectful or disresponsible. And I wonder, I could have imagined that the phoenix that you met on the peak could have also said, not just you're unimportant or a leaf or a speck, but also could have asked you to stop growing, at least. I don't know. And I hear that sometimes from the natural world when I'm meditating outside. And I feel very inconvenient with it because at the moment we do that by wars, by hunger, letting people die of hunger, of diseases, and so on. That's our way of, kind of limiting our species, but doesn't feel very intelligent.
Right. Yeah.
So I just wonder how can we stop growing? How can we keep our limit? And it's just something that a question I sit with. Just wanted to share that. I'm
Yeah.
interested in what you think about that.
Thank you. It's a really hard question. And I think you live in a place that's much more crowded than the place where I live.
At least in
But
Germany and in a small city.
yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's like the people who have done studies on this, like what can we do to save the planet? Have fewer children is at the top of the list. And then they say educating women and girls is the best way to get fewer babies to be born. That is more effective even than handing out birth control or whatever. But for some reason, it's not welcomed by the powers that be. They want there to be lots of us so they can underpay us and we'll compete for jobs and they'll have slaves. Whatever form of slavery you want. And so, I mean, hunter-gatherers, I think that their lifestyle naturally reduced fertility. I mean, you're carrying that baby around for 5 years and nursing. And it doesn't prevent, but it slows down the reproductive rate. But almost none of us are living that way. So the question is, what's the cultural change? And I don't have the answer. Oh, the Dalai Lama once said, more people should become monks and nuns. That's not a very useful answer. That's like asking everybody to be vegans, it's just not going to happen. So,
Thank you. No answer needed. It's just great to ponder a bit on that question. Thank you.
yes, right. Yeah, thank you. John.
Thank you, Shodo, and thank you, Geoff, for arranging this as well. I am in the twilight years of my life and wondering how I can be true to my bodhisattva vows of trying to reduce suffering as well. I live in southern Delaware, and we have lots of wonderful environmental things, nature, a lot of trees, and right alongside the ocean, which causes a lot of people to come here as well. So we're losing our natural environment. And I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania in the States. Lots of trees and mountains and hiking up in the woods and like that. And I grew up to appreciate nature. And I'm thinking that maybe one of the things that I might be able to do down here is to help protect this nature from the development that is trying to take over this area. And maybe encourage people to get out into nature because we are nature. We're all part of that ourselves. And once they learn what it's like to be walking through the woods and silently, and a little walking meditation, as Thich Nhat Hanh would often do through the woods, then maybe they'll begin to realize that it's important to save it, to protect it as well. So I'm thinking that might be something that I might be able to add some value to as well. So I appreciate the timing is very good, Shodo, on this.
Great. That's a lovely thought. And I'm thinking, you could offer through community education. Oops, there you are. Yes. Or something, there are ways you could offer it to the public. You could offer it through your library and just come out. It's like I'm into doing rituals together, but you probably can't organize those through either of those venues. But yeah, being out and then teaching people how to be present, because you can go in the woods with a conquering mentality. But if you go the receptive, wonderful.
I had come from an interfaith group working on climate change. So there's a lot of faith groups around here, and it might be possible to work through them. One of the state parks, of which we have a fair number of them, do have an educational process. So maybe to get folks, I'm thinking about Joanna Macy as she
Yeah.
was brought up, and clearly the meta crises or system boundaries is shows that we are in a great unraveling, as she put it.
Yeah.
And maybe the way
Yeah.
to be able to get into to the final phase on that is to get people locally to start appreciating what it is that we're losing because of what we are taught about trying to become colonists in our own way here. Maybe we need to reverse that, and getting out into the nature maybe a good way of doing that. So I appreciate it. You've given me some good thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoy doing it, and feel free to tell me if you do. So we had some chats, Bud. Oh, so there's delaying childbirth until later in life is an effective way to limit population growth. So I made sure to tell my kids that it was okay not to have kids. So they each had 2 kids, but they didn't have them until they were 30. So that's something, you know. And then Bud goes, hopefully not by government edict. And so here's the thing. I mean, I had kids when I was 21, and that's really stupid. I mean, there's a biology going on, but because I didn't live in a connected community, it meant that I was a slave to my children. And it meant that I didn't have a sense of myself as a free being. Of course, other women who had children had a different experience. But our culture doesn't have a way. And I was not, I had my kids before I had found some freedom from the cultural messages. But yeah, I mean, I think years ago I had a fantasy. Well, I did some math and I went, okay, to reduce the population down to 5 million or something, what we need to do is cut the population. We need 1 child for 5 adults for a few generations, and it wouldn't take so long. And then I thought, oh, okay, so if you have 5 couples or 10 adults raising 2 children, those children have plenty of adult support. There was no internet, or I would have posted it. But it was like, I still thought it was a good idea, because to have children and to have other people who are involved with them, that seemed good to me. But I don't know, that didn't happen.
Well,
But
there aren't a lot of ways to do that. You just need to be talking about it, making it a public conversation.
oh, right, yeah. Now we have more access to the public with the internet. Here we are, and we're from all over the place. But there were some other things. It was sort of like, you have to understand that when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was not empowered and I was not connected. And so I would have ideas and I wouldn't know how to bring them forth. So bringing them forth, helping other people bring them forth is a really big deal. And I see a lot more of that than I did in the 60s and 70s. Things started to move then. Let me see. Oh, Geoff.
Yeah, Shodo, thank you. I loved your talk, and there's so many nuggets that are just rich. And I don't know if this isn't so much a question, but you may have a comment on it. 2 things that I kind of put together that are a little bit different than what you're talking about just now. I don't remember your exact words, but it was something like your adversary can be your best teacher or your biggest supporter or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
and then what I connected to that was you referred just in kind of in passing to that as we have these try to avoid inflammatory language, but let's call it what it is. These racist terror cadres attacking American cities.
Right.
Portland learned from Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago learned from Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Evanston learned from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte is learning from everybody that's gone before. And it's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just,
And tell you, when they did it in Northfield, we were all shocked. Northfield is the kind of place that stuff just doesn't happen.
yeah.
But we're a left wing. I mean, most of the surrounding area is kind of Republican, and we were the one place where people were doing marches and stuff, and so we had to be punished.
Yeah. Yeah. But it I don't know so much about hope. I don't hang out in hope so much, but I guess I can use the word anyway. It gives me some hope to see how quickly we're learning. And Kathleen's here from Germany, and I think I'm sure this has happened in Europe, in some of the big capitals and in different cities in Europe where this collective wisdom that comes up from experience, and then we share it. So, thank you for that.
Oh, Rayron, hi, good. I'm glad you're ready in Milwaukee. I hope they don't come, but
So
okay. Oh, good, your face. Hi there.
They probably will come, but we're ready.
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, I've been inspired by the stuff they're doing in Charlotte. It's like I keep seeing more and better stuff that's happening. Oh, and Seattle is now painting on the sidewalks. Our neighbor was kidnapped here. So, and there'll be a lot of those. If people do it, and it's pretty easy to do. So on hope. So there's an interesting thing about hope. So I follow Derek Jensen to some extent, and he has little talks about bashing hope. But the definition of hope is it's an expectation that somebody else is going to do it. So that's like, oh, I can watch TV or whatever. I can lie in the sun also. Or I can, I don't think I should go on a 3-year retreat. I used to really want to do that. But I don't think now is the right time for me. It might be for somebody else. But so there's Rebecca Solnit about hope, and I won't look it up. She, she's famous. She goes around the country giving talks. And once there was a woman from Cambodia, from Asia. She said, if I had not hoped, I would not have survived Pol Pot. And so the other definition of hope is that the certain is not fixed and it's not hopeless. So right now we're being advertised into hopelessness, and the media is really doing a lot of that. And then some people are doing the opposite. But not the kind of hope that says it's going to be fine, but the kind of hope that says, oh, my actions have results and I'm not alone, is the other piece. But I think that woman who had to escape Pol Pot, and I know some other stories of people who escaped, it's like there was a kind of determination that they had to do. They could not rest. And they escaped somehow. Okay. So thank you for bringing up hope. I will say that it's always possible to do a study group or reading group with this thing, because I'm thinking you haven't read it, but it's got a lot of pieces. And someday I'll make a study guide. But in the meanwhile, it's like you could just, do this and have a discussion, or do this as a support for your local action group.
Kathleen had her hand up earlier, and it's gone up and down a couple of times. Kathleen, I don't know if you still want to share, and then Linda's got her hand up too.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Geoff, for noticing that. It was just that I really wanted to add to the hope thread that I appreciate most. My understanding of hope is openness, as you say, as your title is. So I can't hope for something special, and I really worked on losing hope that we can fix it again, that everything will be fine, and that's hard work, I think, or I felt it was hard work, with a lot of sadness and stuff going on. But so at the moment, I'm at that point to say that my hope, if it's still there at all, lies in the possibility of openness of the future, and that's very helpful and freeing also. That's just what I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda?
Yeah, I just want to share a quote on hope that has been very meaningful to me. It's hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. And that's by Václav Havel.
Oh,
And,
Václav Havel, who
yes.
got out of prison and led his country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that line. Thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, I love that, because it just makes, it's really about, this is what it needs to be done, and I'm going to do it. And so that's why I'm doing it. Not so much out of hope.
Right. Yeah. But that something makes sense.
Yes.
And so, yeah. I mean, that word hope is so tricky.
Yes, it
But
is.
yeah, you just have to do it.
Yeah, go hope and fear, right? Hope and fear with the Buddha's teachings.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, let's see. Oops. Okay, Taylor.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I just was hoping that you could drop the name of the author of the poem you just read in the chat.
The poem I just read. Wait.
No, Linda, who just shared.
Linda. Right. Yeah. Václav. I can do that.
Thank you.
Havel? Is that it? Okay. Yeah. You look up Václav, you'll probably find him because it's not a common name.
And Kat's got her hand up.
Kat, yes.
Hi, not to pile on to all this hope thing, because I know this is not what the talk was originally about, but I equate hope with the Buddhist sense of impermanence, in that every situation is impermanent, and that kind of gives me hope. So when we're going through bad times, I just remember this isn't permanent, this will pass. And that's kind of the way I look at hope. It's I'm trying to find my words, but yeah, that's it. That'll cover it.
Yeah, that's good. Suzuki Roshi was asked to give a 2-word summary of the Zen teachings. And what he said was, everything changes. And eventually I figured out what a totally wonderful thing that is. It's just astounding. Wow. This is so great. I really appreciate all the comments and questions and thoughts.
I think we might have time for one more question or sharing, if anybody is so inclined.
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. So you mentioned your website.
Yes.
Is there a way to email you through your website?
Let's see. Well, first, yes, but let's see. So that's my email, and And that's the website.
Terrific.
And the book is very visible on the website. It doesn't have, it has a page on the website, so it's easy to get there. Oh, Kathleen.
Yeah, again, the same direction here, short thing, is that we have that eco-sattva community and community room on our Peacemaker site and or place on the Hive. So, and I could imagine that I would post there if there are people interested in a reading group, in a group for reading your book, and maybe that comes up. So maybe we get back to that to you there if there's interest. That's a great offer.
That's a great idea, because it's like I've thought, oh, I should start study groups or something, and it's like, oh.
It's a bit of organizing, but let's see if I would love to be part of that.
Yeah, and tell me if you do it, if you can. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Kathleen. Good idea. Good
idea.
Well, we're approaching the end of our time here. Shodo, I want to thank you sincerely for sharing with us, and I may reach out to you with an idea about doing a study series that we would organize. So you wouldn't have, all you'd have to do is show up.
Yes, great.
If you wanted to lead such a thing. So
yeah,
maybe we can talk about that. And to all of you who stuck with us for an hour and a half, thank you very much. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to revisit this, sometime next week, the video will be up on the website. Jim's at Auschwitz this week, so he's won't be able to process the video until next week. So
yeah.
So with that, if everybody wants to, we do this from time to time. Open your mic and just wish each other a good day, and then we can go our separate ways.
Great.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you so much for that information.
Thank you, everyone.